Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the DeckTales Podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who called the open sea their workplace. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed a few tears. So, if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, DeckTales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Josh Harris, a former cruise ship entertainer and one-off cruise director who got the chance to work on an Arctic expedition ship which finished up around the start of COVID. Josh had some interesting stories to share and even brought his ship dancer girlfriend Emily in on the chat towards the end. I said ship dancer, okay? Just clarifying. Anyway, let's anchor up and have a little listen. Hey Josh, good afternoon. How you doing, buddy?
How are we? Yeah, good. Thank you for having me.
It's all right, mate. How has your day been?
Yeah, not too bad. I've managed to get a few bits done this morning and squeeze in a little gym session.
Nice. Whereabouts do you live in?
I'm North London now, Palmer's Green.
Oh, that's right. You were going to move up here. You are closer to my ends now.
Yeah, I've been here a while now. I've been here a good couple of years. Yeah, I was always East London before, but yeah, now I've been where I have for the last couple of years.
Are you keeping busy? How's that? Well, the acting strikes are over now.
Yeah, I'm playing Santa throughout Christmas, so I'm the man himself, Santa Claus.
Well, this probably won't be edited and published until after Christmas, but yeah, I can't do it all in one night. It's I haven't got a workshop of elves to do the editing for me, unfortunately. But we'll get there eventually, Josh. So you're the first person I've had the chance to speak to who's essentially my entertainment host brother-in-arms.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a really great idea. So, and I'm sure that you're going to hear loads of really fun stories. So
that's the idea. That's the hope as well. And if you're really shit, then I won't publish your episode.
Perfect.
So yeah, appreciate you taking the time to have a bit of a sit down and a chinwag with me today. Are you still working on ships? When's your next contract booked in? Have you got one lined up?
No, the plan is to stay off of ships now.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, never say never. Do you know what I mean? That's always an option, but certainly that's not where I want to be anymore at the moment.
So when I met you, we was doing some extra work on. I don't even know what was the film called.
It's
we were filming in Borough, weren't we?
Yeah, who did it have in it? It was
Wahlberg,
Halle Berry, and Mark Wahlberg.
That's right. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the production was something like the code word was something like crumpet.
With Piece of Cake we did it with, didn't we? Yeah.
So when I met you, you hadn't long come off of another ship or your last ship, and was you an assistant cruise director on something?
2018 to 19, I spent approximately 9-10 months as an actor host. That was my first contract.
Right.
Applied for a job that I was nowhere near qualified for as a cruise director off the back of it, or with Scenic, which is really luxury billionaires we're talking. And yeah, they just took up the operation. The one who was heading the operations just set up a meeting with me, took a plunge with me, and really liked me. And they offered me the job. I initially turned it down because I hadn't been long back from the first job, and I had a wedding and that I was best man for. And that was for the maiden voyage of the Scenic Eclipse. And and then once that was out of the way, a few months later, so they got in touch with me again. And I said, we're going to Antarctica this time. Would you like to come? And I didn't have to think about it too long.
No, man, you got to take that.
Yeah, I had to do it. And it was just, it was brilliant. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't do the maiden voyage, actually, because don't get me wrong, like once I get going, I'm fine. But because I hadn't done anything like that before, it was nice to have something that somebody had before, and then to be like, oh, okay, this is how this works. Because I'm not a very techie person, so I was asking how hyperlinks work to send to the captain and all this sort of stuff. So it was nice to have something to pick up from.
You were
And
given
then,
the handover from the previous cruise
yeah,
director.
and then I took what I liked, and then I made it better. So yeah, it was nice.
Mm. And how long was your total time spent at sea?
Yeah, so 9 months the first contract, sorry, and then we were cut short on the Antarctica contract. It felt like a lot longer, but I think in the end it was only 4 months because that was when the pandemic started. So one of the last trips back into, so basically the ship always picked up new guests from Ushuaia.
Where's that?
That's at the bottom of Argentina, so that's where the ship sails to Antarctica. So
Okay.
all your passengers and guests and stuff, they will get the ship from Ushuaia. So yeah, we couldn't pick up, we couldn't come in on the very last time. So yeah, we were stuck in the middle of the ocean like a lot of ships were, trying to figure out which port, how we were going to get home. And we were floating around the middle of the ocean. At one point, Argentina was going to let us in, and another point, and it kept changing. And in the end, it was Uruguay that let us in, and it was ambassador for the UK met me at the airport to get me home. That's how serious things were. It was just madness, and I can tell you that wouldn't have happened with a company I was working for before. That was very like VIP treatment, wasn't it? But
well, so hang on, how long were you? So the company that you were with before, and that you did around Argentina, that was Scenic, the billionaires retreat.
The first company I worked with as an actor host, that was 9 months. That was with that was on a Morella ship.
Okay.
With Peel, and then
Peel, the entertainment company.
Yes,
they were my first company that I worked with.
Okay. So and then sorry, 4 months with Scenic. And then that was it. I kind of said, I've ticked it off the list now. I've done it.
Okay.
But then I got roped into a couple of short sort of stints with Peel again, like over the last year or two, just doing a couple of short cover contracts because I wouldn't do anything long, just coming in for I did a month and a half in the summer last year. Yeah, it was a couple of months actually in the end. It was a month and a half. I went back for a weekend. It was quite bizarre. And then I went back for another month. 40 days or something. So the entertainment team really liked having me, and they asked if I'd come back for Christmas. So then it all worked out, and I did come back for Christmas, and that's how I met Emily. So I'm very glad I did that.
So just to go back and recap on the ships, because I want to ask you certain questions about your contracts. So Morella was the first. The ship was called
Discovery 2.
Discovery 2. And then the one after that was
Scenic Eclipse.
Scenic Eclipse around Antarctica.
Yeah.
And you did that for 4 months. After that period, however long it was, you went and did a couple other little jobs for Peel again.
Then I had time away from being on the ship, and then recently I picked up doing just a couple of short contracts just to get away and have a little bit of a break again.
And what was your role on all of these? So the Scenic you were on as a cruise director by chance, but with Peel, you were doing actor host.
Yeah.
And how long were you stranded on the Scenic?
I'm trying to think now. I think we were floating around in the ocean for a good week, about a week.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot worse stories out there.
I know, man. I mean, considering you were very fortunate to have only had to spend a week floating around. What's the worst case scenario you heard of?
Oh, I've heard about, I think one of my, best pals, Adam, who was, I'm just trying to think now. It would have been with Peel. I don't know if it was a Morella ship he was on, but I think they were floating around for a couple of months or something. They were lose their minds on there.
Yeah, man, it was terrible. That period of time, a lot of the public's attention at the start of COVID, it was kind of drawn to the Diamond Princess over in Tokyo, because that was sort of like ground zero for COVID, and people were watching it in the Western world like, it's unfolding. But basically, they looked at the Diamond Princess as being the petri dish, if you like, to see how this whole thing would unfurl, how it would unravel. And once they saw the guests were sent home and taken care of, they were back to caring about their own lives and worrying about their own existences. But what a lot of people didn't really understand or really even think to question was, what about the crew? It's only passengers getting sent off straight away in most cases. And obviously you were lucky in that you got to go home on the first week when lockdown was enforced. But as you said, in some cases, people were on those ships, the crew, for months and months and months. And then companies would basically get their ships together and say, right, this ship's going back to China, this ship's going to Australia, you live over there, you live over there. They repatriated everyone eventually over time, right? But it took a long time.
It was a little bit dramatic, soap opera-y in a way, because I'd met a girl in Argentina. So I obviously, the time before that I'd been in port and seen her, it wasn't really our last goodbye kind of thing. I was like, I'll be back, next time round, see you soon kind of thing. So obviously I didn't get to say bye to her. But, I think that wasn't going to stand the test of time anyway, like once I was home and stuff. It didn't really last that long, but, at the time it was kind of like, oh, well, you didn't get to say goodbye.
So you feel like there's some, who knows what could have been? She was the one that got away.
Oh no, I'm very happy with the current offerings now.
But you had some good times, and I'm guessing you had your fair share of bad times. How did you fall into the line of work?
Yeah, I think I just spoke to people and seeing, on social media and stuff, people doing cruises, and I just thought, that looks a lot of fun. I think that since moving away from musical theatre originally and then training at a film school, that was kind of the focus from then on. So I was kind of like, you associate entertainment team on cruise ships, the first thing you normally think of is all singing, all dancing. So, for a while I kind of thought, well, it might not be quite the right thing for me. But then obviously seeing the actor host role kind of thing, the sort of alarms went off and thought, this could be perfect. So I went along to my first open audition for a cruise, really, which, I know a lot of people sometimes do quite a few auditions before actually getting a contract. So I was quite fortunate in that way, I guess. And then, went to an open audition day for Pill Talent, which you've probably been through yourself.
Yeah. A long time ago. God, I didn't actually audition for them for the first time. I had an interview sit down with, one of the directors and one of the cruise directors. And I just had a very informal sit down and chat. And I was so young. I was like 18, 19, probably just turned. And I said something quite flippant or something quite throwaway that was probably a little bit, I don't know, was childish, but in a way it kind of undermined the man's authority, but in a really cheeky way that he just sort of loved, if that makes sense. I said he reminded me of my uncle, who's a cab driver. I think that was what ticked the boxes.
Brilliant. Honesty is the best policy.
Absolutely. And I didn't have any stage school training or go to fancy, RADA or any of these places. But people ask you those questions all the time. How did you get this job? Did you go to this special school for, I don't know, performing delinquents? Or what do you do for a real job? It's like, well, I'm at sea 7 days a week. I work 24/7 or as often as I'm called on. This is my real job. And I guess you could say the time I was on was quite interesting as well, because we were going straight into, social media was blossoming. So, you go on stage, you learn the craft of hosting live in front of an audience, and then you come back and everyone's just looking at their phones and hosting to the reflection of themselves. So that's kind of why I guess I'm doing this, because I can't do that. I'm not that way. I'm not that way inclined. I can't just have a conversation with myself and provide content. I don't know. This is, I think, far more genuine way to kind of curate content.
For sure.
I think there's a lot of stories out there they just don't get told. There's not a platform for it. So hopefully this place can offer something for some people. Because obviously, you said you only had a week on board, but there was some very sad situations that occurred. And there wasn't really a safe space for the stranded crew to get in touch with anyone. They were stuck.
Oh, I mean, on Scenic, we were very fortunate. No one had COVID on the ship. I mean, we went to Antarctica, right? So we were in the only continent in the world that didn't have COVID. So we were having these nice sort of sunset parties still. We managed to do some silly water sports games in the middle of the ocean with rafts, and the captain racing maybe the engineer, and along with a team. Do you know what I mean? And we managed to do stuff. The ship had water sports facilities on it, and and we managed to turn something negative into a positive and keep the guests' morale up. So I guess we were very lucky in that way.
Well, they had money to burn.
Yeah.
So their wish is your command, basically. When you say something like, your guests were billionaires, I just have images in my mind of like, they're in the water and they take water up and literally water shoots out the jetpack.
Oh yeah, they're really cool. They are.
I mean, I've got images of like your guests just being like very demanding and like, where's my jet ski? I want to pay.
Fortunately, 60%. So Scenic is an Australian company, so 60% of the guests were Australian, and Aussies are really down to earth. If we were talking 60% billionaires that were English, that would have been a whole kettle of fish. We had to deal with some right arseholes on Ambassador, and these are people that are on a budget cruise. So I wouldn't like to think what being on a ship with rich billionaire British people would be like. It probably wouldn't be a lot of fun.
I don't know what it is about Australians, and well, I've met lovely Australians. I don't think I've ever met a nasty piece of work Australian. It's just it's a rarity, isn't it?
I love Aussies. I think you can search across the world, and I think they have the same humor as us. I don't think anyone has a closer humor to the British as the Australians.
There's a lot less pretense among their culture.
We have the same humor, and I think, if humors are very different, aren't they? It gets lost.
No, we definitely have, I think, our fair share of like snobs. Yeah, if you've got a bit of money and you're British, people do have a tendency to think very highly of themselves, and yeah, it's not uncommon. We did.
It's only going to get worse with all these influencers these days and stuff that think that they're something special when they've made money off of just
Did you...
It's going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
So Argentina was your home port. Where was it again?
Yeah, for Scenic, Ushuaia. So right down at the very bottom of Argentina. It doesn't look like Argentina because it's so far north. I've been told by the expedition team that it looks somewhat like Alaska.
Oh, okay. How cold did it get at the coldest?
I mean, we were there for their summer, but it's still, still pretty cold. There must have been a couple of months where it was a bit warmer, but the other couple of months, you've still got a lot of snow on the mountains and stuff. And
not snowing on the deck.
I'm just trying to think now. Yeah, I think it was pretty snowy everywhere. Yeah.
So when it snowed heavy down there, because expedition ships are becoming a bit more common now for the super elite or the wealthy elite, I should say, and the wealthy elite love to burn up their carbon footprint by not only taking a cruise around some of these places where you're doing a lot more damage than good quicker, because they're just not used to those type of emissions. And also, most of the clientele going down there, they're not getting your economy ticket on EasyJet neither. They're all got their own private jets taking them hither and thither.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously quite a small plane that takes them over across to Ushuaia, I believe. I'm just trying to think now. I remember flying out they flew me to, well, anyway, I believe the last plane we got was quite a small plane.
What did you do over there? Like, I know the expedition was to go and see some places that are untouched or very like off the beaten track, away from mass tourism. But was there anything for you guys to do down there?
So what would happen each day is that everyone would have their Zodiac teams, which is the boats that they go out in. So, I've worked very closely with the expedition team. So as well as running my own entertainment program, I also worked with the expedition team. And they would go out first thing early in the morning, put the flags out in the snow. They would make paths for the guests to be able to venture out on. So they would make sure everything's safe to go out first. So they'd set all that up and then they'd come back and give the guests that experience.
You basically set up these treks, these paths with the expedition team for the guests to go and get lost on.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're closely watched. I mean, a lot of them are very old, aren't they? So
yeah, none of them got taken hostage by a polar bear or nothing.
No, we were wrong side of the world.
All right, sorry, a penguin.
But yeah, no one got torn apart by a leopard seal, thankfully. I mean, I had a bit of a close encounter
with a leopard seal.
Yeah, so they're one of the apex predators, the leopard seal out there.
Apex predators being animals that eat anything.
Yeah, basically top of the food chain, really, isn't it? That apex. So you've got like the killer whales and the leopard seals, really. And I went out with my tech friend. We went out with some guests we went out in a double kayak, and then he had to leave early to set something up. So I changed into a single kayak. So, one of my team members, Jordan or whatever, he helped me into a single kayak. And then I went to catch up with the rest of the team because I was a little bit far from them, having to organize that. And then I just heard this whoosh. And, being in a single kayak is quite unsteady and unnerving anyway. Just knew straight away that it was going to be a leopard seal. And I just saw panic on all these guests' face. And I was just like, I really need to remain calm right now. And in the end, Jordan drove his boat and the leopard seal sort of went off and followed that instead. But it was quite a surreal moment, to be fair.
Yeah. Was there a bit of shrinkage?
There was a lot of shrinkage. It was cold. It was already cold anyways.
Yeah. Obviously, even more so when you thought, you were going to be mauled by a leopard seal. So that was the hairiest moment you had in Antarctica.
Sure. I mean, there were other moments things shrunk a lot more than I thought they ever could. And that was doing the polar plunge, which I did it the first time. And I thought, never again. I've ticked it off the list now. And then you make a good rapport with guests and they want to see you go in and you feel you feel like you owe it to them. So, but I was normally up that ladder quicker than I got down it. So
how cold was the water? Do you remember?
Oh, I mean, it's freezing, isn't it? I mean, I think it's just obviously if it was zero, it would be completely frozen. You wouldn't be able to swim in it. But it was just above zero, really. So we're talking like 1-2 degrees.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what you'd expect for that area of the world. The plunge pool is good for your circulation, though. Wim Hof would be jumping at the bit. He'd be chomping at the bit, I should say, to enjoy those waters and preach the benefits of cold water therapy.
Oh, you do feel amazing afterwards, I must say.
Well, you've got no choice. It's just your heart is beating out of your chest, trying to keep you alive. It's flight or fight. I mean, I'm a hot shower kind of guy, but now and again I'll do what's known as James Bonding. So you creep the cold on towards the end.
Finish off with a nice little cold shower to wake you up at the end.
I didn't coin that term. I read it somewhere. Outside of the snow leopard, was there any other scary encounters?
I mean, we had some rough seas. I mean, you expect it. I mean, it's the roughest passage of ocean in the world between Ushuaia and Antarctica, the Drake Passage. They call it the Drake Shake. But the thing is that the ship was one of the most state-of-the-art ships in this world. So even though the waves would be like flying over the top of the boat kind of thing, the boat remained like a cork on the water like this. And actually, I don't know whether it was because I'd ticked off a boat before that, but I did pretty well. I didn't really feel seasick and stuff, considering I know a lot of people were quite ill, but also working on Morello on the big boat like that, we were caught up in a bit of a storm, and it's a whole different kettle of fish on there because you're talking big old boats that are not made in the same way at all. The stabilizers don't function to be able to adjust to how the water moves. So, I would say I felt a lot worse going through a bit of a storm.
What was so state of the art about the Scenic?
Well, its propellers were advanced so that they would alter all the time and to change to the motion of the water. So they weren't just like set like a standard thing. They would adjust, and yeah, it was just very high tech.
Like 4-wheel drive, but underwater.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. And was it what was it running on?
Now you're testing me. I'd have to Google it, to be fair.
I don't think people care. I'm just curious.
I did know a lot of this stuff when I was doing it, just because it was very interesting. But yeah, it's all left me now. Being an expedition ship, it could get into them places that other ships couldn't, and being so state of the art. Do you know what I mean? I'd watch the captain steer the boat through a gap that would only just fit the boat through. And I don't think many other ships out there are doing stuff like that. We got into, we got really into Antarctica. I don't think there's a lot of cruise ships. I know that other ships are doing it, but I don't think they're doing it in the same level.
And in terms of the facilities that you had on board, how big was the ship in terms of its gross tonnage?
Yeah, again, Sam, you're asking me a question I'm never going to be able to answer.
How many passengers did you have?
There was 200 crew and 200 guests.
Oh,
so it
wow.
was one-to-one service.
1-to-1. We love that.
It was the most expensive ship in the world in terms of price per berth.
Wow, and you got to go on it for free, and you got paid to work on it.
I got paid to go to Antarctica, yeah. Not too bad.
It's not a bad gig, is it?
I did have the smallest living conditions allowed on a ship. So my cabin was tiny. Like, there was my bed, and then I could touch the wall. Thankfully I had some good storage in there, but literally when I arrived, I thought, Jesus Christ, how am I going to cope? And then I sort of slapped myself and said, Josh, grow up. You're about to see Antarctica. You'll get over it.
Yeah. And you weren't like on your high horse, but I'm the cruise director.
No, but, there was a lot of politics on that ship. I won't go into too much of it, but the expedition team were all in guest cabins, and I also worked very hard with them and for their team. And I was in,
steerage,
a box.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. But so the kickback obviously for you was, getting to see an amazing place that you'd otherwise never get the chance to go and see. I know that if I'd have stayed at sea, I'd have loved to have checked it out and gone down there. So when you told me when we met that you'd been there, I always wanted to pick your brain about it at some point and hear your experiences, because it sounds like out of this world, something that you can only dream of.
You couldn't take a photo of it, honestly, I could try the rest of my life to be able, I don't think I'd ever be able to take that picture again. Do you know what I mean? And be like.
But it's always there, Josh. Anytime you're feeling stressed, you can go back and revisit it in your mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's only a short, fleeting couple of months, but it's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, you get to rub it in Emily's face that you went and she didn't.
Don't say that too loud. She'll try and go back out at sea.
Yeah, she needs to. It's like Top Trumps, isn't it? Or Happy Families. You want to collect the set of all the places that you could go and where you haven't been. It's an addictive lifestyle. That's why people keep going back to it. Why do you think is the reason that you've decided to not go back?
I think that I just really want to focus on my career here, TV, films, where I want to head. And if I keep distracting myself going on a ship, you kind of lose a rhythm of, being in it to win it and doing all the right things to make that happen. So,
and you strike me as somebody who very much relishes their independence and being self-sufficient and not having to be weighted on hand and foot.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, it's an amazing lifestyle. I love to travel, and I'm also very addicted to it. So, that's why when Peel trying to get me back and say, oh, you can come and just do a bit of cover work. And I'm like, oh, okay, right. Yeah, I
What did
mean,
they dangle? Did they offer you like a pay grade up or?
I'll be honest with you, I definitely didn't do anything for Peel for the money.
No, me either. It was just to
um,
get away from Blighty.
yeah, it's the experience itself. And also, it's as much as I love it, I think everyone needs that one day a week where they can just chill out on the sofa, do whatever they want, not have to talk to anybody. And you know as well as me that when you work on the ship, you've not got that one day to lock you can't even lock, you're working every single night. You're expected, you've got that badge on.
No, yes,
So
it's intermittent napping.
yeah, you got to make the most of them day naps, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
That odd hour you can get here and there, it's a game changer.
When you get in your cabin as well, I don't know if you ever used to do this, Josh, but your name tags. I don't know if you had the same as me, but they were magnetized. So you had that little strip that you'd pop under your shirt, and then when you got in your cabin, you'd put one arm under and put it together, and then you'd spin it on the wall and let it stick. Sort of like the badge is off, ain't no one talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
The badge is on the wall, talk to the hand because my arse isn't listening. I used to love a daytime nap. And just to, obviously, if you're in an inside cabin, just close the door and turn off the light and you're in pitch black darkness. You don't know what time of day it is. You can nap without any interruption. And then when you're called to action, jump up, put a light on and get up to the top deck. And it's glorious sunshine or Arctic frost or whatever it is. Time on ship is 24/7, it feels like. But you're right. Yeah, you're always on the clock in some aspect of your mind. You're kind of always just, burning the candle at both ends. What would it take to get you back on board a ship? Because now that you've ticked off essentially what I would call the holy grail of itineraries, is there anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'd been on ships a lot younger, like most of my peers, people that kind of got straight out of college and joined ships, like yourself, really, you were quite young, 18. I
Yeah.
think I would have probably done a fair more few years, but I think by the time I did my first contract, which was 2018,
And how old were you?
so I think I was about 28.
And
So
now you're.
yeah, now I'm 32. So
Oh yeah, you're past it, Josh. You're too old.
yeah,
You
so
should be retired already, mate.
no, but in terms of like, I need to get on and make a career happen. I kind of left that world a bit late. So, I've done the Med and the Caribbean and Antarctica, but I've not, like a lot of people that have done it for years, I've not seen a huge part of the world.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think maybe later on in life, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I could be tempted by just taking one of them world cruises and just being
What
like,
you mean if you were paying to go on as a guest?
I guess for work, I wouldn't be able to afford it unless things happen really nicely for me over the next couple of years. But yeah, I could be tempted maybe in like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. It all depends on a lot of things, doesn't it? Family and,
Yes.
you can't plan life, but maybe one day I could be swung into a little kind of, I don't know, one-off late reunion
Well,
cruise.
just remember, Josh, in many cases, sometimes it's actually cheaper to live on a cruise ship in retirement than it is to live in an old people's home in this country.
Yes, and we do get a lot of them. You get a lot of them, don't you, that just live on the ship. So yeah, maybe that's how I'll do it. I'll retire on a cruise ship.
I heard about a cruise director who spent like 40, 50 years at sea. And then when he retired, he basically just went back on board, but as a paying guest and spent out his last few years on that same ship.
Wow.
What a way to go. I mean, yeah, part of the furniture, whether he's working or not working, he went straight back to it. And there's a nice romanticism about that. It's also a tale of a little bit sort of sad that he never really integrated or never found a place on land to have a family of his own. And every year, he had a new cast of show team members and entertainment hosts. And on his wall, he had pictures of all of them over the years who'd left, gone away, had kids, sent their pictures to him. And he had them all over his wall of all these kids and, that are having kids. Meanwhile, he stays, he puts on shows every night, and he just loved entertaining at sea. And as you say, it's not for everyone, but if you've got it good and you don't really see how you can have it much better, keep it up.
Exactly.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. But one of the things that I think was difficult for me to see a future in it, I guess one of my last cruise directors, I'd seen him reach the top of his position, and he got married to a woman in the band. It was I think she was a Peruvian singer or something, and they had a kid. At some point during the contract, they came on board for like 2 months, and before they came on board, he was in like robot mode. My boss, my cruise director, was in robot mode. Every single show, just going through the motions, doing the same stuff. It was so routine for him. He didn't have any passion. He just was counting down the days until when his kid and his wife came on board. And when they came on board, he was a changed man. He was the life and soul of the party. His patter was different. There was much more enjoyment in his work. You could see it in his face. And then the moment they left, it all went down again. And I was like, oh, that could be me. I could stay on board and get to that point where I've not got a life because my life is back home and I'm missing it. He's got his kid that he can't see grow up in front of his face because he's always on board a ship. So, you got to watch where you bury your nuts.
You have.
That's a terrible analogy. I want to hear some juiciness. I want to hear some, if only I hadn't.
Oh, well, I mean, being on a cruise ship, it's a little soap opera. Do you know what I mean? We always used to call it Coronation Street down by our cabins and stuff like that. My first contract, I nearly didn't make it even a month. So I nearly got sacked before we even got to the Caribbean. The ship had an overnight in Kusadasi in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And there'd already been stuff that had gone on, like cabin parties and stuff like that. We'd had a big warning that the captain's watching everybody, like everybody needs to be on their best behavior. We suggest you don't go out. We're not going to stop you, but we suggest you don't go out tonight. So I, along with my assistant cruise director and a few friends, we did get very, very drunk that night, to the point where we had fireworks in our mouths in this nightclub. Like, it was just chaos. And the difference is that a lot of people that had done the cruises for a while and stuff knew that they couldn't go up on that ramp and look drunk. So, they were getting themselves a kebab and trying to look sober, whereas I was still trying to order beer in the kebab shop. And then my mate Adam was like, I'm not being seen anywhere near you because we're going to get sacked. So in the end, it was my friend, the DJ, who was literally helping me stumble up the ramp. And there was the SECO, the security officer.
Mm.
He was a very stern looking guy. And you were always intimidated by him.
Mm.
And my way of breaking the ice, well, I'm stumbling up this very steep ramp and literally falling all over it, is I thought to break the ice and soften things, I thought it'd be a good idea to sing to him, "You Make Me Feel Brand New." So that didn't go down well. Obviously, I had a call from the nurse's office at around 7 a.m. Josh needs to head for a breathalyzer. And I think I blew about 6 times over the limit or something ridiculous. Which is like basically like an instant sack. But there's a few people that had misbehaved that night and stuff. So that what they'd done is they'd organised some hearings, and the cruise director, he called me up to his cabin and he went, "Josh, you can't tell anyone I've called you here. You're not meant to know this, but tomorrow you're going to get a call and they're going to ask you in for a hearing. So that just gives you a little bit more time to think about what you want to say. This is the situation."
Pay your defence properly.
Yeah. So I was all suited and booted, and I was just very real with them. I was very honest, and I went, this is my first cruise. I've absolutely fucked up big time. I really love my job. I love the whole team. It would be an absolute disaster if I went home. And they just obviously had a go at me, and then just said, "What are you going to do for others?" And it was kind of like, yes, I'm gonna set an example and move forward in better ways from here on. And then the captain said, I've decided that you can stay. And he made an example out of somebody else who was one of the pianists or whatever, who rocked up in a t-shirt. And
I was going to say the suit saved you.
And I think his attitude was probably a lot shitter than mine as well. So yes, I was very lucky. I don't think it wasn't known that anyone had ever been in my position before and kept their job. My flights were booked to go home. Peel said that because of the seriousness of the situation that they couldn't defend me. So in the end, it was the captain that had the last say and saved me.
He is essentially judge, jury, and executioner, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
He's God. So who's presenting the evidence? The captain. Who's giving the verdict? The captain. Who's deliberating the evidence? The captain. It's all on him.
Yeah.
But so what were you were doing? You were doing an overnighter.
Yeah. So the ship was staying overnight.
And which obviously, for those not aware, is a rarity on ships.
Yeah, we only do them once in a blue moon, really.
And so it's every other night you're on board the ship. When you're overnight somewhere, everyone wants to get off. Everyone wants to go to a club. Everyone wants to sort of taste sweet freedom just for an evening and pull an all-nighter because it's an overnighter. And if you're on Port Manning, you're a loser.
For sure.
But so, did you have a favourite ship? That's not even a question, is it really? Come on. Had to be the Scenic.
Well, no, it wasn't Scenic really, because don't get me wrong, it was an amazing ship compared to Morella or Ambassador. Don't get me wrong there, but it's all about the experience, isn't it? And I think that things might have changed a lot by now, but I was basically cruise director and the only entertainment really. I had guest acts around Christmas, New Year. I had a couple of pianists that I looked after that sang in the lounge and stuff. They helped out with Christmas and New Year bits as well. But when you work for a big team like Peel on a big ship, you're a whole entertainment team. Do you know what I mean? You've got various friends that you can go off with here and there. So I think that the cruise director role for me on Scenic was quite a lonely role. Don't get me wrong, like I was having some of the best times of my life exploring a place like Antarctica, but it was a very lonely role to speak as well.
Mm.
I feel like probably on the big ships, most cruises, there's normally at least somebody that dies. And I forgot what the code is for that. I wonder if Emily will know. I'm just going to ask her. Emily, do you know what the code is when they've got a death situation?
Oscar is overboard.
Like Oscar, when they do an announcement on the tannoy, people like often on most cruises, normally somebody dies, don't they? Because there's a lot of old people.
Yeah.
So normally when it's a medical one, it's
Code Mike.
Yeah. And then, is that it? There's not a particular code. Yeah. But, we get a lot of code mics.
Yeah, so Delta was fire. Oscar was man overboard.
Honestly, it was just man overboard.
Oh, wow. But didn't beat around the bush on that one. Everyone runs to the side.
There was crew alert if we were needed, but it's code Bravo if there was an emergency where we weren't.
Mike someone's just died.
Or a medical emergency.
Well, it's medical as well, but more often than not, some poor bastard is about to be put in the frozen locker.
Oh, yeah. The morgue.
Yep.
And so did you hear of any of those stories?
I mean, it was always kept quite quiet, but normally if there was like a woman that was on, normally we'd hear odd things here and there, wouldn't we? Or there'd be an ambulance outside the port as we arrived.
Or you'd hear it. Sorry, I'm going to butt in.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, nice to meet you. We'd often hear stories, you'd hear it through crew.
Yeah.
Or often there was rumours among passengers. Sometimes some of the younger passengers, in their 50s or 60s would make up rumours and they'd say, oh, they died because of this. And yeah.
Well, let's hear some of these rumours. I love rumours.
Okay, so we sailed through a hurricane on my last ship, and I don't know whether somebody died or not. It was a long cruise and there were elderly passengers, so it's a big possibility. But there was a big rumour around many of the guests that somebody had died because of the hurricane, that this was going to have repercussions for the company. But whether that actually happened or not, I think is very much up to discussion.
Well, a hurricane's a natural disaster.
Exactly.
Not a lot that you can really do.
No, that was my point exactly. Whether they died due to the hurricane or they were going to unfortunately die anyway.
Well, they won't make a movie about that one anytime soon, I don't think.
I think we did get a guest that was very depressed and hung himself, I think, unfortunately. But normally it's just a kind of rumour you get. You don't really hear the whole ins and outs of things.
Did you ever see or hear the one about the importance of not passing through a watertight door if it's closing during a drill?
Yes.
Did you see the same image that I saw?
Well, I don't think I ever saw an image.
No, did you see someone getting crushed?
No. An image that was basically of a man's bloody overalls.
Oh.
Just the overalls. And they were posted next to all the watertight doors that said, under pain of death, if this door is closing when there's a drill on, do not pass this door.
Oh, I never saw that.
Because that happened to somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Somebody was in the nicest way possible. I don't know what happened. They slipped over, they tripped, they fell, they got crushed. And those doors are heavy. So once you get caught in them, that's it. There's no turning back.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Are you all done with cruising as well, Emily? Or are you thinking about going back just to kind of do one of them for Josh?
Yeah, see you later. No, I'm done for now. However, I have recently auditioned for. I don't want to touch wood.
Yeah, don't jinx any names.
Don't jinx any names, but it's for a musical trio.
And so is it like in the capacity of guest entertainer? So you're on it for a short period of time. You go to this company or this ship, that ship, there.
Exactly that. So I'd only be on there for a few days at a time, and I get to see different companies and see different ships as well,
and different places.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Hope you get it.
Thank you.
And what's the capacity of what you're doing? You said performing trios, so singing, dancing, playing the bass. What are you doing?
I'm not cool, unfortunately. No, just singing. It's a 1950s style musical trio, so lots of harmony work.
Nice. Bit of swing music.
Exactly, yeah.
You like a bit of swing, don't you, Josh?
I do like a bit of swing, yeah.
You were crooning away on set, I remember. And
not the sort of swinging where there's a pineapple on the door, though.
You were doing some operatic stuff at one point.
Oh, Little Opera Dude. I just got him going again.
Little Opera Dude?
Yes.
What's the Little Opera Dude?
On all socials, Little Opera Dude. L-I-L, Opera Dude.
Little Opera Dude.
Make sure you give him a follow.
Emily, whilst you're here, you might as well promote yourself if there's anything to promote.
Yeah, sure. I'm Emily Travis 98 on TikTok, and I'm Emily_RoseX on Instagram. Travis, Travis.
Travis, like the singer.
Except better.
Well, that's a plug, isn't it? I would love if you've got one or two just to kind of leave on a bang.
I mean, all I can say to people out there is that when you go to these third world countries, don't eat meat off a grill, because I got some really horrific food poisoning to the point where I nearly had to be sent home because I was confined to my cabin for days. And then I thought lay on the beach in the Cayman Islands and the sun would help warm up my fluey bones, but that was the wrong thing to do. I just didn't want to miss out on New Year's Eve. And then, New Year again, I'm projectile vomiting all over the cabin. And Adam's like, what's that? And I'm like, go back to sleep. It's fine. Because they would have sent me home if they knew this was still going on. So I've had to whip to the cleaner's trolley and nick all her stuff and clean the cabin. Horrific. So yeah, and I thought I was ordering a chicken wrap in Guatemala, and it was like a giant pork scratching. I'm not even sure to describe it, but yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I have another story about food poisoning. Where were we?
Grenada.
We were at Grenada, and there was a kind of shack where we could get food. We were all really hungry, and Adam, Josh's old cabin mate, turned to me and was like, "Oh no, I don't want to risk the food poisoning." And I turned to him and I said, "Don't be stupid. Everybody's eating here. You're not going to get food poisoning." And I think everybody who ate there got food poisoning except me and one other person.
Wow, you did a deal with the devil or something. How did you skip that?
Oh, you just had a beef burger. Yeah, so I felt really bad because I told them they weren't going to get food poisoning and they all did. Oops.
So one big thing that I'll tell anyone that goes on a cruise, do not go to a third world country and order chicken or fish. Play it safe. Just go for the beef burger.
Just go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why risk it for a biscuit? Did you go on any excursions whilst you was away that were hairy encounters? Because excursions themselves, some of them are untested, especially if you're going on a maiden voyage, Josh.
Yeah. Working with Peel the first contract I did, I was king of the excursions. I made sure that I was best friends with everyone that worked on the Shorex team. Yeah. So I was off doing everything. I was really doing the cruise experience, which not everyone gets to do.
You were collecting them fridge magnets.
I was collecting fridge magnets as well. I've got a
It's got to be done. But you was on every excursion. You had any?
I went buggying through the jungle in Belize. I went. Me and my DJ friend had a speedboat out in Mexico. That was all apparently all still part of the helping the guests and all that. We were there for somewhat 5 minutes with them on a bus. So snorkeling out in Mexico. Went to an amazing water park in Mexico.
Now you're just showing off, Josh. These are not stories people care about.
Just went to see what's that massive pyramid in Mexico? The
Machu Picchu.
No, that's Peru. I think.
Well, you went there, Josh.
Whatever options I had, I made sure I saw it all.
Wow, that's a lovely way to say farewell, I suppose. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt and collected all the fridge magnets.
Well, I thought I'd share the awful stories first and then end on a nice note.
Well, it depends how I edit it. But I just want to say thank you both to yourself, Josh, and of course Emily for just joining us, the last leg of this conversation. Enjoy the rest of your week. And maybe you see you around London at some point on set, whether we're passers-by in a scene at a pub or we're guards or soldiers. Who knows where we might cross paths again.
Cheers, Sam. Thanks for having us.
No worries at all. Thanks very much, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you later on. Bye-bye. So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of DeckTales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, don't forget to subscribe, rate and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to navigate the podcast waters and continue bringing you these fascinating stories. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own cruise stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your captain, Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared on DeckTales. Bon voyage.